Man, y'all thought me teaching the children about me being poly was crazy. But not only that, but they also know that I'm gender fluid. When I also explain to them that I'm pagan, so I am also a witch. Lois isn't a boy or a girl. Lois is a witch. Duh.
I mean, how would you not know that? That was Lois, a polyamorous genderfluid witch who is also a preschool teacher in Florida, talking about how sometimes the students in her class get a little confused about what to call her. I mean, of course they're confused, Sean. I mean, how does a 4-year-old supposed to know what polyamorous witch is?
Yeah.
Poor kids. Well, for more on this, let's bring in tonight's company, a Spicer and Company First, a company of Newsmax host. We have co-host of National Report, Emma Rechenberg, and co-host of Wake Up America Weekend, Alison Maloni. Ladies, it's so good to have you. Thanks for staying up with us on a Friday night. Yeah, welcome to Spicer and Company.
Thank you.
Well, Alison, I'm going to start with you. You are a mom, mother of 3 girls. What would your reaction be if that was one of your daughter's teachers?
I can't even imagine. I mean, I had to Google. I had to understand what exactly he was or is. Look, I don't care if you identify with a tree, but the things that she's talking to her students about should not be happening in a classroom, especially to preschoolers. Preschoolers are 3 and 4 years old. They can barely tie their shoes. This is not something that they should be discussing in the classroom in preschool. No wonder why these kids are confused. That type of stuff is supposed to be done at the home. They're there to learn how to read, write. They do crafts. So if I was a parent and had a child in that preschool, I'd pull them out immediately.
Good mom. Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg was on The View today, where he was asked about Florida's parental rights and education law, or what the Democrats like to call Don't Say Gay law. Listen to what he had to say. Watch.
Your husband, Chasten, is a teacher, and he's been a vocal critic of what's going on in my state of Florida with the so-called Don't Say Gay law now, which he says will kill kids. Do you agree?
Yeah, he's right, and I think every law ought to be judged for the effect it's going to have on real people in real life.
Okay, so Emma, I mean, there is real concern a lot of times with some of these transgender kids or kids who have gender, issues where they have some mental health concerns, that they should be seeing somebody and maybe getting some help. We should take that seriously. But at the end of the day, this bill has nothing to do with that. And these people want to keep making it something that it's not.
Right. I think we can all agree that we want children to thrive. And as you point out, Lindsay, these are very serious topics, the topics of gender and sexual orientation, and even possibly gender reassignment. If you're going to be having those conversations, you want to have it with a trusted loved one. A parent would be the perfect person to have those serious conversations with, not a teacher, where you're supposed to be in the classroom, focusing on your studies, focusing on learning, getting to know how to communicate with other kids in the classroom. So absolutely, the fact that these conversations are at home is where those should be taking place. I also do take some issue with some of the journalists and their coverage of this bill, allowing themselves to sort of re-echo Democrat talking points, calling it Don't Say Gay, instead of having those in-depth interviews with Florida parents who would be impacted by this legislation. Do they want their kids to have these discussions in the classrooms? How about you talk to them and actually work as a reporter to get that information out to people before just writing it off as a Don't Say Gay bill, which if you read it, you won't find that.
That's very good points. Well, some of these older kids, when they go on to college, and then apparently they make fun of CNN hosts. I want to show you what happened to Brian Stelter at the University of Chicago. Take a look when he got called out by a freshman.
You've all spoken extensively about Fox News being a purveyor of disinformation, but CNN is right up there with them. They pushed the Russian collusion hoax. They pushed the Jussie Smollett hoax. They smeared Justice Kavanaugh as a rapist, and they also smeared Nick Sandmann as a white supremacist. And yes, they dismissed the Hunter Biden laptop affair as pure Russian disinformation. With mainstream corporate journalists becoming little more than apologists and cheerleaders for the regime, is it time to finally declare that the canon of journalistic ethics is dead or no longer operative?
It's too bad it's time for lunch, but I understand that that is a popular right-wing narrative about CNN.
So, Allison, you know, the funny thing is, those were all facts. That freshman schooled Brian there, and he dismissed it as a right-wing talking point.
Yeah, kudos to that freshman. I see a job for him in some media outlet for sure, probably not CNN. But look, he pointed out the facts, and you know, for Brian to just ignore it, just laugh it off. He calls everything a right-wing narrative. He's gone after every media outlet that he can because he doesn't have the answer. The reality is this Hunter Biden story is true. I mean, he should probably go back to school. I know he majored in mass communication with a focus on journalism. There's a class you take. It's called ethics in journalism. And when the New York Times did officially break the Hunter Biden story, saying that, okay, well, this laptop is real, Brian puts out a newsletter. He ignored that story. So he just wants to bury his head in the sand and then go blame all of these right-wing media outlets for all of these stories that they're ignoring to cover, or they are blaming the right-wing Republicans for something. So he really should go back to school, I think.
Yeah, Emma, you know, Allison's right. I mean, he's got this newsletter. He's got a weekly show. They're very sanctimonious. They talk about facts first. They go after everybody else. But when it comes to themselves and they get called out for everything they've done, they pivot to talking about right-wing talking points. Instead of saying, you know what, we've made mistakes too, we're just as bad, they pivot and blame the right wing for things that are demonstrably false on their air.
So true. You know, I don't think Brian Stelter expected that question, but I am so glad that this student asked it because it shows that there's some curiosity for the next generation of reporters and journalists. They want to ask questions about the stories that we don't often see in liberal news outlets, and whether it be questions about COVID, the lockdowns, how effective were they, the origins of COVID, or even the Hunter Biden laptop scandal. I wish the New York Times, I wish the Washington Post would have taken an interest sooner when the story first broke. Hindsight is literally 2020 here when you think about when the New York Post broke the Hunter Biden laptop story. But it's a real story and people have questions about it. Half of this country would like to see reporters ask these types of questions. And for someone who works in this field, we owe it to the viewers, owe it to the readers to be asking these questions of elected officials. I think this is a learning moment, but again, I'm hopeful for what might come for these future journalists.
I agree. I think it's awesome that it happened on a college campus. So that really does give me a lot of hope. Emma, Allison, stick around. We're going to